Okay, we're going to be learning a short Maamar for this week, and we have one day to teach this class. So it's a kind of an Akuda kind of Maamar, an appointed Maamar on the ideas of the Mishkan and the Ve'Asu Li Mikdash. So the pasuk says, let's make it a little larger. The pasuk says, "Ve'Asu Li Mikdash b'Shechinah b'Seichel." At the beginning of Truma, we say, "Make me a mikdash, make me a tabernacle, b'Shechinah, and I will rest b'Seichel amongst you." B'Seichel, the Rebbe asks, "Hari Amru?" It's brought down. We know that Kol Makim Shneimar Li, it says "Ve'Asu Li," make for me. Anytime it says in the Torah Li, Ein Zaz L'Olam. It's there forever. It doesn't zaz me. It doesn't move forever. That's the case. The Rebbe asked, "In Kain Eif Ne'emar Ve'Asu Li Mikdash." After you say Ve'Asu Li Mikdash, Ein Zaz L'Olam, it doesn't move forever. Not meaning moving within the desert. It never changes. It's a reality for good. Hari Mikdash, Hainu Mishkan, the Ekri Mikdash, Hayu B'Shinuyim. There was changes within the Mishkan itself, meaning seemingly it evolved. It wasn't the same base of Mikdash that Moshe, the same Mishkan that Moshe built evolved by the time it was in Shiloh. It was a semi-building. So how could you say any Zaz L'Olam that it just stays as is? And the Ve'Asu Li Mikdash, in this case, we're talking about the Mishkan. And if you want to say it includes as well the Beis HaMikdash, V'chein HaMikdash, so to the temple itself, the Mikdash itself, Shasa Shloimeh, that Shlomo Melech made, but Bayis Sheni, and the second build the Beis HaMikdash afterwards, Shneim Nechravu. So how could they were both destroyed? So how could we say Ein Zaz, as if Ve'Asu Li Mikdash is going to be there forever when they were destroyed, and the Mishkan was buried? So there's not only can you say that they haven't, so to say, moved, not just that they didn't move, they're not here anymore. We don't have a Beis HaMikdash, we don't have a Mishkan, not the first Beis HaMikdash, not the second Beis HaMikdash. So how could you say Li, and Li means, whenever it says Li, the rule is Ein Zaz L'Olam, it's there forever. So why does the Torah use this? We're not asking why was the Beis HaMikdash destroyed. That's another conversation. But if this is the fact that it's not here anymore, there are changes, so then don't use the word leaf. Why don't you say Ve'Asu Li? So the Rebbe Tzemach explains in our Torah that Shemigdash Ha'elyin Mechuber Mamish Mikdash Tachtonim. It's brought down many places. This psukim that support this idea that the heavenly Beis HaMikdash called Mikdash Ha'elyin is Mechuber, is Mamish connected, the Rebbe says, with the Mikdash Tachtonim, with the lower Beis HaMikdash. Okay, in Shemaim Rizal, like Shom Rizal, as our rabbis have taught, Al Pasuk Yerushalayim HaBenuya. Yerushalayim is a city that's built ki ir shachur v'lo yachtav, that's connected. Yerushalayim hi ir sheba mechubar mishlayim shlemayel v'shlayim shemat, because Yerushalayim is connected. That the upper Yerushalayim means the Yerushalayim, the spiritual Yerushalayim, and the physical Yerushalayim are mamish connected. If that's the case, the Zeh and Zaz L'Olam, it never changes. So that's what the Tzemach Tzedek answers. Why? Because Yerushalayim Shlomayla is always there. The upper Yerushalayim is always there. It may not show itself here in this world, in the physical, but Yerushalayim is always here. Therefore, the Beis HaMikdash is always here, and it's never. Therefore, we can say Ve'Asu Li Mikdash Li Ein Zaz L'Olam. It never changes because Yerushalayim Shlomayla, which is Mechuber, Yerushalayim Shlomat, is always there. And therefore, there's also the spiritual Beis HaMikdash, the spiritual temple, so to say, is still there. The obvious question is okay, fine. So that means that the spiritual Beis HaMikdash is there. With the pasuk, Ve'Asu Li Mikdash is not just talking about making a spiritual Beis HaMikdash and the spiritual Yerushalayim. It's saying Ve'Asu Li Mikdash to make an actual temple, to make a tabernacle with all the kelim, using zav v'chesev and using all the materials that have to be used. So then again, the question is there. At the end of the day, the pasuk is referring to the gashimistic Beis HaMikdash, the one way it's here in this world. So why are we using the word li? Mr. Rebbe says, so therefore maybe we could say, or therefore we will say that the Tzemach Tzedek brings a second answer, Al Pi Mashin Isvar, let's explain, that when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, there we have the Beis HaMikdash Ma'at, a small temple. What does this mean? About the Kinesias, about the Midrashas, the shuls and yeshivas. throughout the diaspora, throughout the ages. That is the Mikdash Mat. Beis Rabbeinu Shabbat, right? Even the times of the diaspora, the Golos. We have the small temples, which are the shuls and the yeshivas. That never changed. There was never a time in Jewish history that there wasn't shuls and yeshivas. There could be, excuse me, it could be there was times there was more shuls and less shuls, more Beit Midrash and less Beit Midrash in that time in history. That there was no place for Jews to daven anywhere in the world that never existed. Even in the times when there's Dar Shmad and Eretz Yisrael, the bubble was always bubble. And other times in our history, in different places throughout history, whether it's in Eastern Europe or Western Europe, or in Germany, whether it's in Spain, there were Xeras, and there was out of England, also places that the Jewish people kicked out of, but there was always another place. That's the idea of the tzedakah. God spread the Jewish people that there's always someone doing Torah mitzvahs. There's always a shul, there's always a beis medrash, and that never stops for all times. And therefore, we say Ve'Asu Li Mikdash because the Batei Midrashim and the Batei Knesiyos, the yeshivas and the shuls are still standing. The Rebbe says again, "Hine Batei Knesiyos, Batei Midrashim, Heim Mikdash Ma'at, Shemisham Ein Yizaz La'im," it never stops, and the Hashem is resting in the shuls and in the yeshivas. The Rebbe asked, "This is a very pointed Maamar. And the flow is hard to hold. The Rebbe asks, and therefore the Rebbe points out that why is it that the shuls, so to say, and the Batei Midrashim, the shuls and yeshivas are here forever? Because Yerushalayim Shamayla, the Jerusalem above is always standing. That was never destroyed, and therefore it manifests itself. Maybe not in the base of Mikdash the way it is here in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem over here by Harabais, but it's going to be that in the shuls that are in Yerushalayim, and the shuls outside of Yerushalayim, the shuls throughout Chutzlarts, that from the base of Mikdash Elyon is connected to all the Batei Midrashim, all the Batei Knesiyos in the world. The Gam Kasher Hoya Churban, even when there was destruction, that God sort of say let his anger out lahavdo on the wood and the stones of the actual base of Mikdash. Nisha Gama base of Mikdash Lamata. How? There was still the base of Mikdash. But the Knesiyos, but the Midrash, the small shuls and the yeshivas. So that answers the question. Now, it's not a problem to say Ve'Asu Li Mikdash because the base of Mikdash is always standing. How is it always standing? The base of Mikdash is not standing. It's standing because of the Yerushalayim Shamayla. Therefore, it manifests itself, whether it's in a shul in America, shul in Europe, or shul in Bavel, or shul in Morocco. It doesn't make a difference where it is. And there's plenty of shuls. It's in all the shuls. But the idea that is in the Batei Knesiyos, in the shuls, in the Batei Midrashos, in the yeshivas, that's the Beit Mikdash Mat. And I'm going to start off, and we still have to understand. But still, explain. We need to explain what is the idea of the Beit Mikdash, that Hashem rests in a specific place. We have a verse that's asked many times in Chassidus that God fills the whole world, heaven and earth. It's the Shemayim, the stars, the heaven and earth, Animali, God fills. So what's significant about the Beis Mikdash? I know, godliness is everywhere. So what was the necessity for the Beis Mikdash? We're not just talking about the term, the level of godliness, like when Malik Olam, how Hashem fills the world. When we say Ani Malay, when the pasuk says Shemayim v'Sa'aretz Ani Malay, it's the emphasis is not on the word Malay that God fills me, say in the way of Malik Olam. The emphasis is on the word Ani, and the Ani is I. I is above any name, any manifestation, above the way God manifests in the way He fills the world, the way He encompasses the world. God is all over the world, and that's the Ani, that's the essence. So what's lacking? If the essence of God is everywhere, even higher than the way God is in the level of Soviv Kalam, as encompassing the world. So what's lacking? What's the necessity for the Beis Mikdash? I need the I. What's the idea of I? So just explain a little bit, not just to rush too fast in this Maamar. We learned this morning in the Maamar, right? That there's a different the idea of the Shemus of the names. So you have a Shem Etzem, a Shem Atoyer, you have an essential name, you have a descriptive name, right? If someone has a title name, but you have Anoichi, I is the essence. That's me. I don't need a name. Same thing as Ani. I is God without any name, without any title, which is the essence of God, which is even above the level of Soiv, how Hashem encompasses the world. And Hashem says in the pasuk, as Shemayim v'sa'aretz ani malei, God fills the world. So what's the necessity for the Beis Hamikdash? What's so special about the Beis Hamikdash? If you don't want to say what's a necessity, what's special? Exactly, Hashem is filling everywhere. Even if you want to say, God wants that we should do it. We should cause the revelation of godliness. And therefore, we need the Beis Hamikdash because that's where we do it, so to say. At the any movement, we can still ask the question. Why do you have to make a Beis Hamikdash if you need a avodah? Tell a person, go out there and do avodah, go do work, go serve God, go daven, go scream Shema Yisrael, go sing. Avraham Avinu was also screaming, I'll take a Ve'Asu. He's telling the whole world that there's a God. Why do you need a mokim, a place, and a building to say this is the way a person does avodah to bring Hashem down? Because Hashem wants it to be connected to avodah. Again, this is very unregular for Rebbe's Maamar to be very mamish to put these points, which are larger ideas put into a page and a half. So why does it have to be a Mikdash specifically? The idea is the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, Perek Nunav, the Alter Rebbe talks about the manifestation of the Beis Hamikdash in the end of Tanya, of the first section of Tanya, chapter 51. The Achidush Beis Hamikdash, what's so unique about the Beis Hamikdash, with the necessity and the reasoning of the Beis Hamikdash of the temple, God wanted not just that there should be any malay, that God fills the whole world, but that there should be mamish revelation in a miraculous way in a specific place, makim suim, and that's the Beis Hamikdash. That's the temple on the Temple Mount. That's why when they built the Beis Hamikdash, they couldn't just put up a mizbeach. When they came to build the Beis Hamikdash after the Churban of Bayis Rishon, it says they had to have the Nevi'im to come and say this is exactly where the mizbeach was, because it had to be exactly in the same space. Just like a soul fills the body. Like again, we learned this morning that you're alive equally. The nefesh itself that's in the body, a person, you can't say the person's more alive in the finger than the person's in the foot. You could say there's different functionalities, but to say you're more alive than Sham is equally in the whole body. The Oisa HaNefesh, the same soul, it's in all the 248 limbs of Vishasagi, in the 365 arteries, and connected the 613 mitzvahs, which are that's made up of the Adam. That's why the Torah is called Torah Adam, like we learned this morning. But Hashem made it that how does the soul manifest? Where does it rest essentially? The revealed place of the soul is in the brain, and we show nimshach, and from the brain, like we learned this morning, from Chachma, is a chais, it disperses itself from the functional throughout the body. Yes, the body's in the soul's in the whole body, but its main spot of resting is in the brain. So too, Hashem is in the whole world, but He wants to be in a specific place, and that's the Beis Hamikdash. So too in the temple, Shechinah, that's where God is revealed. God is resting in a revealed way. Through the Beis Hamikdash, it comes to the whole world. That's why it's brought down. If the Goyim would know, if the nations that destroyed the temple would know how dependent they are on the temple. Not only would they not destroyed it, they would have protected it. Because it's like an autoimmune, right? What's an autoimmune? Your body doesn't realize that it's fighting itself, so it's hurting itself. So the body attacks it. An autoimmune can attack the brain. And when the autoimmune attacks the brain, it affects the whole functionality of the body. So by the going destroying the Beis Hamikdash, it's like an autoimmune. You're destroying your source of life. Hashem reveals Himself in Beis Hamikdash. That's the source of life. So if they recognize that, if the body recognizes, then the autoimmune, what do you have to do with that? How do you treat an autoimmune? You have to tell the body you're hurting yourself, that you're facing the wrong direction. Instead of hurting the body, it thinks it's protecting the body, but it's really hurting the body. So you have to let it know that you're hurting the body. You have to protect the body. In the Beis Hamikdash, the godliness comes out to the whole world. As we know, it's not done on the Maamar. Again, it's a cryptic short Maamar of how does it do it to move Makamachar. There's other places according to the Ramban and the Rambam. The Rebbe brings it down in the Maamar that we learned of Mizmud of Hashem Roy Le'Yachzer, that there's the way it's if im oifen Gili Shechinah B'Mikdash B'derech Ma'aver or Makif. The Rambam says is that it's B'derech Ma'aver. It's like something passes through the hand. And the Ramban, the Nachmani, says this with their Malbush, that it encloses itself like an idea that the brain actually has the idea. You're going to say Hashem, how could he be limited? He's believed world. So the Rebbe answers that God decided to be this way, that he should be typhus specifically in this specific place. If it's a way of makif, or if it's a way of slapshus. Okay. Being Omer Zal, the rabbis of Tara, was on the idea of building a Mishkan, that what we find in the base of Mikdash doesn't not only specifically in the Temple Mount, but also within ourselves. Like the Rebbe quotes this message many times. Moving misunderstood, the everyone has an element of the base of Mikdash within them, and within their whole part of their bodies. Different parts of the body represent different functionalities of the body. This represents different parts of the base of Mikdash internally of each person. Therefore, the details of the base of Mikdash are also in every person. The idea is to avoid as Atzemach Tzedek explains. There's two fundamental breakdowns of the Mishkan. There's the coverings, the skins, and there's the crush and the beams. Or you could say Yiriyah Sukli Mishkan, or the coverings and the vessels, right? Whether it's talking about the structure of the Mishkan, or you're talking about the structure and the internals of the Mishkan. The Rebbe says, however you look at it, although it's not exactly the same thing, but let's just move on from that. The Rebbe has a whole sikha of difference in what's the ikar of the Mikdash, if it's the building or the kalim, or if it's the vessels or not. But this represents the skins represent encompassing, and the vessels or the crushing represent the internal. So every person has both encompassing ways of serving God and the internal. And a collectus that gets divided, a person has an avodah. Sometimes the way you internalize with your avodah, and sometimes the way it is in encompassing. As the pasuk says, oiter or kisama or, which is pnimi, is like a garment. Noit shemaim kiriya, like the shemaim, the heaven is like a covering. Although kisama is also a beged, it's also not pnimi, and that's why we say the pasuk when we put on the talis. The yesh b'chin shemaim kiriya. There's the way the heaven is a covering. Shebechin smakim and chutz is an outside. The yesh b'chin oiter or, that's the way it's covering of the light. But because the point of the light is not so much out separating the environment, but the point of the or is to bring it between. Is that it should come in, the light should shine inside. Pneumius, internal. What is this? How does this express itself in a person's avodah? Avodah b'chin smakav ulevush. Avodah became a mitzvah. In general, we know that a mitzvah is makif, external. A mitzvah saying levushim, the mitzvahs are like a garment, like it says in Tanya Benach. It explains by Yom, that you have levushim, you need the mitzvahs in order to go into it's the garments that a person uses, and like tzedakah, every time a person uses tzedakah, is another armor. When you go into Gan Eden, you need to have the mitzvahs to take in the light. The mitzvahs is a makiv, is an encompassing. There's definitely questions of makiv a carbon, makiv a rachik. If it's from a distance, like a bias, or if it's begotten, or if it's clothing, or practice yesh mitzvahs ve'ez b'chinas. So the mitzvahs themselves is two levels. The noise of ve'ez b'chinas that close mitzvahs. Mitzvahs shnitnu lamata, but mitzvahs k'meishem l'mayla. Aside from the fact in general that mitzvahs, the way they are above spiritually, like we say, Abraham Avinu did the whole Torah. He didn't do all the whole Torah, but we did it. He did more spiritual. And then there's the way the mitzvahs are done internally here, mamish with actual ma'aseh, with physical things. Maamar Zal Apostle Magid Dvar Yaakov Chukom Mitzvot of Israel. That when we do a mitzvah, where Hashem also is doing the mitzvah, he's obviously doing the mitzvah in a different way than we're doing the mitzvah. The Mashu Mitzvah Lachem Lasis what he asks us to do, he does himself. So the way Hashem does is considered the elevated mitzvahs, or the heavenly mitzvahs. He says a mitzvah the mitzvahs of the Creator. And there's our mitzvahs down in this world. There's aside from that, there's also two levels of mitzvahs within ourselves. In our mitzvahs itself, like we said, the idea of clothing, the way it's encompassing but it's close, which is more like the urea, it's the skins that are on the outside. Before in the Torah, it's explained in the Torah. What does this mean? When there's a mitzvah that's according to logic, the mitzvah that's above logic. Above logic is like a makav barochi. You don't understand. It's like something that's protecting you from a distance. Where something that fits you, like a garment that has to fit you exactly, that's more the mitzvahs that you understand. This is mamish like a old Torah or Maamar, which has mamish points. Each one of these points we brought in to make this a safer of a man. The Rebbe continues. What's that's makif is the Yeriyos represents the mitzvahs. What is the pnimis? The pnimis is Torah. Pnimis is like food, like lechem. So which is like food you eat and clothing you encompasses you. So he says, Torah is like food. Torah is in his stomach. We nevertheless say we use the word sama like a garment for even the or, which is pnimi. Why? It says because there's two levels of or itself. And Shagama or the Torah yesh bechin sama, bechin smaket, who mishum sheich beis bechin Torah, nigla Torah, pnimis Torah. There's the pnimis Torah, and there's the nigla Torah, the revealed parts of Torah. There's the pnimis Torah that you take in the pnimis, and then there's the nigla, the revealed, which will be more. I'm assuming he means that the nigla is the beged, and the pnimis, or you could say the other way around. You could say that the pnimis Torah because it's not something that we 100% understand. If it more protects a person from an outside, where the nigla is the actual mitzvah you're doing yourself. Or you could say vice versa, that the pnimis is the kavanah, therefore you're taking it inside, and that's the or the weight on the inside, and then you have the or the weight to salma, which is the Torah, the weights in the nigla. It never finishes off by they say some English because when a person makes their spiritual base of English in their own self and their avodah, the base of Melu with Kiyam mitzvahs in the Torah, which is broken down to two main sections, which is Torah mitzvahs, and each one, although mitzvah itself has two levels, and Torah has two levels, like I said before. So therefore it's in stay for generations. When the third base of Mikdash comes, this is the Mikdash that's going to be built by the hands of God. Mishkan, even though the Mishkan was buried, it wasn't destroyed, but it didn't stand forever. Surely the base of Mikdash the built was destroyed. Only the third base of Mikdash, who Mikdash Adam that's when it can be everlasting to the Zohar as Zohar teaches. Since Koyachal said, what empowers that the base of Mikdash in the times of Mashiach should stay forever? My Moshe starting off the avodah, and with us doing all the avodah, and all the way coming through, filtering through the idea of the Mikdash Ma'at and the shuls. This all starts from Moshe Rabbeinu, and then that gives them sinus koyach. That's the power that when Mashiach comes, after all our avodah, it's going to be Mikdash Ad Nikoni Decha. It's going to be the base of Mikdash that's going to be Nitzchi everlasting. Yiratzim may be Hashem's will. Shvakar Maamar speeding in our time. You've been based on Mikdash. We should have the third base of Mikdash. Keep learning them in Zeb Torah. When we learn this in Torah, and Torah is everlasting. The fact is learning in Zeb Parshas the Shavuot, especially when it comes to the week that we learn about it, which is this week's Truma, instead of going on to the next few weeks. We do Piskim Ad Merazak, and as Alter Rebbe says, Shtzarach Lachis and Parshas the Shavuot. We have to live with the times. When we live with the Parshas Truma, it gives us the koyach, the idea of building our own base of Mikdash. And through that, we should be zocher to the base of Mikdash, actually, the third base of Mikdash. Ask us within the Torah became a mitzvah. When we learned the Torah, like we said, that's the pnimis. And we perform the mitzvahs, which is the urias, which is the skins, is the coverings of the base of English. Is niskim here, may we merit speedily in our times the opinion based on English, the third base of English, which we said is because we for the third base of English is because of what we're doing now. So everything that's going to be when Mashiach comes is because of the avodah that we're doing now. The Gula mitzvah Hashem with the true redemption. In the everlasting redemption. Then Mashiach is getting with the righteous Mashiach. The Mikdash to Oimid Muchal Lamayel, the base of Mikdash, the Rebbe said is ready. And as soon as Hashem decides in a second, boom, the base of Mikdash is going to drop down to this world. We paid him made a Maamar for this amount of time. It's a very short Maamar that Rebbe said in the year 1983. Like I said, very nakudas. Each nakuda has to be broad and much larger. We only had one day that you give a class. I figured there's not that many Maamar on Truma, so I figured we're going to learn it. And we'll understand that each one according to ourselves. We can learn it again, think about each one, because each little mamish, every line, every word is the whole item, is the whole world. But this basically puts in a short page, so to say, the idea of the base of Mikdash, the idea of avodah, how the base of Mikdash represents Torah mitzvahs, the big Shvat, Mikdash inside of us, And like the Rebbe says, by learning about this, it may be a blessing for us to have all these revelations within the highest revelation of the Beis Hamikdash teaching and here we may have a wonderful week. As Hashem will learn next week. Maamar either for Purim or the after the Tisavim Maamar, which the Rebbe of course gave out before Purim Cotton, Tafshin Beis 1992.